Welcome to the Wealth Transfer. Now, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but is there a new global currency coming? Stay tuned. For those of you who may be first-time viewers, we here at Wealth Transfer have been in Christian television for probably about 5 years. We've been on multiple stations. We're here on World Harvest on Monday and Thursday evenings, 9:30 Eastern. We're also venturing into Roku and some other areas for those that don't have satellite. So it's very exciting stuff. I do encourage you to please tell family and friends that you think would enjoy the programming and information. They could go to Facebook. They could like Wealth Transfer Ministries and or like Cornerstone Asset Metals. Cornerstone's Facebook is more like a newsletter, so I would really encourage you to do that. But you can watch these programs via Roku and some others, as well as go into our website where there's going to be an actual link that takes you right to the network. You can watch it live on the internet as well. So there are many avenues to getting the truth, and that's our commitment here. We've been trying to do this for years, just to give you the truth. Urgency is merely just being protected and preserved where you can have peace of mind. I know the market systems have been kind of booming lately. The whole Trump effect was real enough. Unfortunately, the data says otherwise. And one of the biggest reasons in 2017 we've even seen a stock market move is the central banks around the world had purchased to date $2 trillion. That's right, $2 trillion of equities, ETFs. I'm telling you folks, if they didn't do that, you would not be seeing an up stock market today. So it's fake, it's false demand, it's false economic parameters, and that's the world we're in. So we got into, is there a new global currency coming? I contend the Chinese with the Silk Road and this dominance that they've been taking into the oil platform is definitely setting that stage. If you have not seen or don't know what I'm referencing, please go to a few of our past programs here over the last few weeks, and we explain how China is using their futures oils contract backed by their yuan, backed by gold, for the takedown, final takedown, I contend, of the dollar's reserve dominance. But I want to get into it because I believe that, not that I'm a conspiracy guy, but I got to tell you, this is pretty good stuff. And I want you to see this too, because well, maybe you could help me understand how the correlation works. The current deadline for the currency transition is 2018, right? In the conspiracy world, and you're going to see what I mean. Well, the demise of the dollar, says the article out of The Independent. So, in the most profound financial change in recent Middle East history, Gulf Arabs are planning, along with China, Russia, Japan, France, to end the dollar dealings for oil, moving instead into a basket of currencies including the Japanese yen, Chinese yuan, the euro gold, and a new unified currency planned for nations in the Gulf Cooperation Council, including Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, and Qatar. Folks, we did a piece when we were talking about the petrodollar. And in that, we were showing how countries that went against the petrodollar, we took out. Now, this is before it completely started falling apart. But that's why we went into Iraq in 2003, because they said they're going to start selling oil for euros. Now, they'll tell you weapons of mass destruction. That was a flat-out lie. And, my heart still goes to Colin Powell, because he was an outstanding general in the Army, and they just used him and lied to him. And when he went up against the UN and made that statement. But we should have been there. Now, recently, when Libya, and that's why, thank God, Hillary Clinton never became president, folks. And for all of those who are supporters, if you just knew the underlying fabric of what she did at State Department, it should put chills on your back. But she was in charge of this, and she knew. And I'm not talking Benghazi when she allowed our special force guys to get killed because they were running weapons to the rebels in Syria totally against the rules and laws, but of course they could do anything they want, not matter. But I'm talking Libya. Muammar Gaddafi got taken out, and she allowed it. Now, Muammar Gaddafi was trying to work with Secretary Clinton at the time to work out a deal. And they didn't want to listen. She wasn't taking his calls. There was no reason whatsoever we should have taken out Libya. None. None. Except this. Muammar Gaddafi was working on a dinar, which was going to be kind of a Middle East cooperation currency. That's what he was doing, backed by gold and oil. And we could not tolerate that because that would have directly violated the petrodollar agreement we made with the Saudis, which would have diminished the capacity of this and the demand for this. And so what did we do? We hunt him down and take him down. Now, they give you all these narratives as to, oh, he's evil, he did this, he did that. Folks, listen, when Reagan bombed him back in the day, I would never forget this, and he flies over with those jets and blows that thing up. I think he even killed one of his little daughters or something. Not, well, that's tragic, but at the same time, the guy was evil. But when Reagan did that, Muammar shut down for the most part. And, you know, our military did a good job of checking him. He was not the threat. But the irony is, not only was it to protect our petrodollar deal, I'm telling you, if you do your history on it, the real history of it, you'll understand what I'm saying is true. We could not allow that, because it would have infringed on our dollar, which our standard of living would have been destroyed. But now, since Libya has been chaos ever since, what did it also do under the Soros-backed socialists of the world? That's right, mass migration to Europe. Europe, before all of this, folks, was fine. And now they brought in how many Islamics? Completely destroying half the small towns in these countries. And I've lived there for 3 years in Germany. I know. I wouldn't go back there for nothing. Where I'm born in Detroit and Dearborn is the largest Islamic community in our country, and I can't walk down that street. So I'm telling you, it was all by design. I know it was. This whole open border stuff these people on the left preach is bull. But it's what they believe, because if they break down society, then they can control you. It's a socialism thing. But she allowed that to take place. They allowed this to happen to Gaddafi because he was doing something that would have messed up the global order. So here we're talking about the currency deadline, right? Here's The Economist magazine. We've showed this a few times. Isn't that ironic? 1988. And the cover of that magazine, Get Ready for World Currency 2018. That was 30 years ago. We couldn't even think that far ahead. We probably thought we'd have flying cars by now, right? But that phoenix, now remember what a phoenix is. It's the rising up of death. It's the reincarnation of something dead, and it's coming back into life. And that goes even to the hardcore of Nimrod and into the Bible, and it's purely Luciferian, of course. Standing on a pile of world reserve currencies. And then around, and they're burning. All the fiat currencies in the world are burning. And it's ironic, we're on and I contend we're getting ready for a global reset. What timing? Around its neck, a gold coin. 2018. Fascinating, isn't it? Now, I know elites in these, you know, I don't know, we call them Illuminatis, I don't know what people have names for them, but they're the cabals. They're like the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, you know, that are in Switzerland and have no one controls them. They have no laws of any country. No one controls them. They pay no taxes. They're the ones running the show, folks. But they're about as Luciferian as it gets, I'm sure. They're real close to this timeline, real close, because we're watching it take place. So I just want you to be encouraged that, if anything, if you see something coming, it's kind of like in baseball I played growing up. If you see the ball coming for your head, you don't just stand there, do you? No, you duck. In the military, we call it duck and cover. You'll be fine if you duck. I'm merely saying we're trying to show the visualization that there's something really big coming. Are you prepared to duck? And when I mean duck, get prepared to some extent. It don't have to be extreme, but make sure you have some water. Make sure you have food. Have backups in case emergencies take place. Get your assets protected. Only those that have proper protection and preservation in their life will be there through the transitionary period that we're getting ready to see. You don't have to believe everything I'm saying. Most of it's data backed. I merely want you to be protected and preserved in the kingdom, because the vision that was clearly given, mandate given to me, and why to get this out. If we in the kingdom are protected and preserved, and we get out of the dodge of this dishonest weight and measure into what God gave us, Haggai 2:8, I know we will have resources to survive what's coming, to help those who can't, and to support the ministries and churches. So I got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Terrorism, a volatile stock market, rising food costs, natural disasters. Every day our economy is at risk, but your assets should not be. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our accredited asset management specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 or register online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com today. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. So I do know, if anything, folks, Cornerstone's a great place to get education. I encourage you, make contact, if anything, get information, because IRAs, 401ks are not being properly preserved and protected. Everyone's in the market systems. You think it's going on forever. I would, as an old advisor, I used to have a Series 3, 7, 63, 65. I'm an accredited asset management specialist. I get it. But all I know is, in any form of financial success, and if the market has been successful to you, good. We would sell 25%, then another 25%. We would scale out. Wouldn't just wait. So if I'm sitting on a $250,000 IRA, I'm not going to wait to the end to pull it out. I would sell out 50, 75, 100,000 of that. And I would get it into a tangible asset. And when something in the cycle of financial advisory. Now, your financial advisor can't tell you this, folks. Most of them struggle just to make a good living. I know for a fact. And some of them do extremely well, but believe me, they have no choice. Number one, they're bound by rules of their brokerage that they can never sell money away from the brokerage. So they, God forbid, they tell you to buy a physical metal. They can't. Most of them completely ignorant on the physical metal world. They have no idea how it works. They all think it's some kind of stock or bond. They just have zero education. You could have a finance degree coming out of college, and I'll bet you never were taught the gold standard. By design, folks. And I can tell you it's by design in a way that will not benefit your family's wealth in the future. But this is something really unique. I'm amazed, if anything, that it's kind of happening. And I've been teaching this stuff for, 4 or 5 years now. And it actually, stuff I was talking about back then is actually happening. And it amazes me that, we're seeing it evolve in front of our eyes. And then most of us don't even see it coming. Just want to make sure you understand that. So, because the Chinese are doing it. And what's happening since this Silk Road has been established that, we've outlined over the last few weeks, since the control mechanisms have been put in place now that they dominate trade, and they're moving into the currency worlds, and they're moving into the dominance of finance, now you're seeing something I call de-dollarization. So this changed just a little bit. The Chinese Silk Road is a de-dollarization, and it's just begun. Now, de-dollarization means these countries in the old days, if I'm, whether it's Italy and Germany, let's just say, If Italy wanted to buy something from Germany, they had their currencies. But what they would normally do, as the dollar was dominant, Germany would buy $1, Italy would buy $1, then they would do the transaction for whatever they were buying. You see? The dollar was in the middle. It was the peg, per se. The dollar's no more in the middle than a lot of these currencies, and we're seeing well over a dozen and more as we continue to go. Countries are now trading in their own currencies, and they're not using this. And a lot of people are going to say, yes, so? Folks, when in the 70s we only had $300 billion in circulation, and we predominantly had almost no debt really at that time, minus Vietnam. But we were pretty well off. At that time, we wouldn't have seen it coming. It didn't make sense. It wasn't a big deal. Our standard of living was increasing. A lot of people say, well, that's when the interest rates went ballistic and 19% this and that. That was only because we came off the gold standard. And then coming off the gold standard, we started printing these things like crazy. And in order to stop the inflation of printing this fake paper currency, they had to put massive interest rates in place. I promise you right now, as I'm staring into this camera, you will never see interest rates at 12, 19% again. You will never see interest rates at 10%, at 9%, at 8%, at 7%, at 6%. I'm being serious. And I can tell you why. Every quarter point they raise in the interest rate adds over $50 billion to our interest payment on our debt. And that, of course, changes as our debt keeps rising, interest payments rise. We can't afford the interest on our debt, let alone repay the debt. So I know for a fact, we've done the calculations, if they raise the interest rates to 5%, we would have an annual $1 trillion interest payment on that debt, let alone repayment, military, welfare. We spend $1 trillion on welfare. Can't wait to do my Roman series. I did this in a conference presentation in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And it was a fascinating thing because I outlined some things of how the Roman Empire collapsed and how it correlates with America. It's pretty exceptional. But we are printing so much money and diluting the value so much so that before you know it, it just goes to nothingness. And that's kind of how the Romans ended up collapsing. They took in their gold and silver coins, they started adding copper, and before you knew it, it was all copper. And then only those that held the real gold and silver were the ones that had sustained wealth after Rome collapsed. But what's interesting about that is the de-dollarization means something because we're in so much debt. The 60, 80 trillion we can't pay back. The 20 trillion in debt we can't pay back. We are paying $1 trillion in welfare, and that's kind of where that Roman thing came in. In the end, Rome started a tremendous welfare program because the big, I don't know, it was Genghis Khan or the other one, the Attila, one of those, they forced them. The Chinese built the Great Wall of China, but what happens is it forced these tribes that were being invaded to go further west. They started going into the Roman territories. Now, typically, when foreigners would go into the Roman territory, they would speak the language, they would assume the culture, and everything kind of blended in. Well, they got so overwhelmed with immigration that they stopped speaking the language, they started bad-mouthing the culture, and politicians, the governors of the regions, started to pay off the people to keep them from revolting. And the problem became most of Rome's production was outsourced. Sounds familiar. Detroit, Ohio, Cleveland, Chicago. We're outsourcing to China a lot too, aren't we? Well, anyway, the Romans did that, and all their food production was being outsourced. So all of a sudden, they're coming into this problem, but the food is controlled by somebody else, region-wise. The people start forming anarchy because they don't give a rip. They don't care. The Romans are running out of money. They stopped speaking the Roman language. They stopped caring about the culture. And the only way that they were getting by those last decades was paying them off with welfare. Not saying that that's happening right now, but we do pay $1 trillion a year on welfare. Think about that. We only really make like 3 trillion in tax revenues, and that's been the greatest we've ever seen. And then we have 1 trillion in welfare. If we raised interest rates enough, that's another trillion. That only leaves another trillion for everything else in the country. You see, there's a systemic problem here. Somebody's going to take it on the chin. This is what happened in the times of Rome and others. And we're seeing something like that. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. I believe in our country more than anybody probably out there. Now, I shouldn't say that. That's pretty arrogant. How about this? I love my country. I love we the people. I love what was given to us as the ability to have free speech, the ability to exercise our religion, the ability to bear arms and walk with guns if I want to, the ability to not have illegal search and seizures, and on and on. I like that we were free to go from A to B. We were the only nation in history that had that dynamic of a constitution. The only one. We were magnificent, and I say were, because we have gone down that road where this is no longer worth anything. We have explosive population. From the 70s was 140 million, now we're at 330 million. We now have a massive population that they're trying to bring in through illegal immigration that has zero education and is on welfare most of their life. And those are the core facts. So why not a merit-based system bringing people who are going to contribute and pay taxes? I don't know. But all I know is we're going down that road that's impossible to maintain. When the Chinese are getting all these countries to de-dollarize, and the de-dollarization is what we have to be concerned about. If you want to have protection and preservation in your retirement, but you're the one earning it, you may want to be properly diversified. So I have to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Terrorism, a volatile stock market, rising food costs, natural disasters. Every day our economy is at risk, but your assets should not be. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our accredited asset management specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 or register online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com today. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. So I got to get into that because I see parallels of empire and I see what we're doing. And I get a little spanky at times because I don't like the lie. And I don't like deceiving us because I genuinely believe that we, the people, really genuinely are a good culture. And that's everybody, by the way. I believe all of us together as a pot mix. I call it the potluck. And we were just talking here at the studio. I was talking with a lady, and we were both explaining how we're 4 or so different nationalities. I mean, I even have American Indian in me. And we were talking about how we just are like I call it a calico. I'm like a calico cat. I had like 4 different hair colors. America was great on that idea. There's nothing wrong with diversity. Everything wrong with identity politics. But that's the political side tearing apart our culture, no different than other empires did towards the end. We can't afford this trajectory. We can't afford the welfare. We can't afford the interest on our debt because on the heels, we have the Chinese, the Russians, and the rest of the world gaming the system to take down the dollar superiority. And it's something that is happening more rapid than we would probably want to admit. So when I say de-dollarization, here's a perfect example here. Headline from Reuters. Venezuela's Maduro says he will shun the U.S. dollar in favor of the yuan. Now, okay, many of those are going to say, well, Look at them, you know, they're collapsing socialists, and people are eating animals in the streets and picking through garbage, and their country's in chaos, and he hates us. Did you see what our president's saying recently about him? We have a tremendous amount of oil that we need from Venezuela. It's called sweet. We need sweet. If we don't get the sweet in the crudes, it's a much more complicated refining process. But Venezuela was a big partner of America as far as oil. We would get a lot of our oil from Venezuela. Well, since Maduro goes AWOL off the range and full totalitarian, almost communist, it has changed our relationship. So many are going to say, oh, well, geez, of course he's going to, say that. No, folks. The Chinese are right in the middle of it. And that's my point. The Chinese approached them because they don't care, remember. They're communists. They play both sides of the fence. Swing both ways. They're right there. Hey, why don't you come into us? Let us have your oil, and we'll do it in the yuan. That is a direct violation of the petro deal, you see. If you don't think that's a big deal, you might want to think about this, because they know what they're doing. And they're getting ready to systematically pick apart the allies of the United States to get them to ally with the yuan instead of this. And that is why I know, with all the data that's out there, what is getting ready to come. Now, I get you, it's a matter of when, but it's so close, I would rather know on a Sunday night I can go to bed in peace and sleep in peace and not wake up to a 2008 style market crash. That's just one example of de-dollarization. And we're not done. There are others. So I'm going to continue in the next program, but I want to help continue to illustrate how, as the world gets away from the dollar and moves into the yuan, and as the yuan moves into the oil-backed, gold-backed standard, the macro to the micro, folks, it directly impacts our ability as we the people to buy goods and services, because this won't buy the same, to save for the future, because interest rates will never be up there again. So for the retired folks, I'm sorry, but you will never see interest payments like that again. That is not going to be your income. You better have diversification, and it doesn't pay interest. But when you look at the valuation increases over time, trumps interest all day long. All I know is we the people need to be in the right place. So I encourage you, go to Facebook. I'm not a social guy myself, but I know a lot of people are. Go to Cornerstone Asset Metals, be a part of their like them, and then you'll get the news feeds that comes from that. And I think you'll be very pleased. Some of them had been some of these articles recently, and it's a good way to stay connected in a simple way. So I encourage all of you to just have a God-blessed day, and we'll see you next time.